I believe. If every single person on this planet do a work on themselves, there will be peace and harmony and non-violence, definitely. Because they will form themselves. They will form the connection with Gaia. You know, Gaia is crying right now. And how do we help? We help by healing ourselves.
Welcome to Point of Relation with Thomas Hübl, a podcast that illuminates the path to collective healing at the intersection of science and mysticism. This is the Point of Relation.
Today's episode was previously recorded for an online event with Thomas. Although it took place at an earlier date, the insights and discussion remain relevant. Amandine Roche is a passionate human rights expert with over 20 years of experience working in conflict zones across Asia, Africa, the Middle East, and South America, collaborating with organizations like the United Nations and USAID.
My name is Thomas Hübl, and I'm very delighted to be sitting here with Amandine Roche. Amandine, very warm welcome to our summit here.
Thank you very much, Thomas. It's a real honor to be part of your summit. Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm very passionate about women's empowerment. I think you are very passionate about it. I'm very passionate about healing trauma and collective trauma, and I think there's a lot of collective trauma in the world around masculine, feminine power abuse, and I think the healing of that is very, very important, so that we can move into new ways of living together. So I know you did a lot of human rights work. You did a lot of work all around the world. And but before we dive into this, I'm always curious. I think when we develop a body of work, there's always some leading edge. Like I'm curious, what keeps you excited nowadays? I know, like, I always have some new things that I'm developing and that I'm really excited about. And I'm curious, what is that for you when you say that the coolest thing ever at the moment for you is?
And I will tell you what really excites me today is to become a woman. I never wanted to be a woman, to tell you the truth, Thomas. I was very aware since a young age that being a woman on Earth, it's tough, it's hell, and I do all what I can do to repress my femininity and develop my masculinity within myself, because it was my way to survive in this world. So. But what excites me the most right now is finally to embrace my femininity and to be a woman, and a proud woman on Earth. Mm-hmm.
It's very beautiful to hear that now. And it makes me also sad to hear that, like, you had a long time the experience to that it's hell to be a woman on Earth. And maybe you can... Let's speak a little bit about this trying to be masculine in this world, and what is actually your, maybe even your own way to embrace female leadership on your own path so far. Maybe you can speak a little bit to that. What is adopting kind of a masculine form of leadership, and what helped you to discover your own authentic leadership?
Yes, thank you. You know, your question is very profound for me, because I'm just becoming aware why I've been repressing so much my femininity and developing so much my masculine quality in order to survive on this planet and to work for more than 20 years on leadership of women in conflict countries. And I realized there is two reasons. My mom is a Polish refugee to France, and she was a human rights activist for Amnesty International. So since at a young age, I was the one writing letters to prisoners in jail, going to all the conference, manifestation, demonstration for human rights. So she made me aware that I'm very lucky to be born in a human rights country, the cradle of human rights, France. And second, I remember When I was 7, I came back home furious. And I went to my bedroom and I put a clip on my vagina and I say, from now on, I will never be a woman because it's hell, it's suffering. I'd rather be a man. And I cut my hair, start to dress as a man. And until recently, because the healing happened. And when I went on healing, I discovered that I was abused by my teacher. And I realized that I've been working for United Nations, European Commission, all around the world, in Afghanistan, in Congo, in Haiti, in Central Africa, in Angola, you name it, in the at the bottom of the fossilized patriarchy, in order to wake up all my sister and to work on healing the sexual abuse and to give them back the power of leadership in order to take seat of ministries or doing electoral campaign to become minister or senator or deputies in Afghanistan on civic education. But I realize only now, after this long healing journey, that the person I wanted to save was myself. And this trauma that happened to me at 7 years old was my engine, was the reason that led me to this path of woman empowerment, of healing all the women on this planet. Because this planet has been abused, exploited, and raped by men for centuries, as much as the women on this planet have been abused, raped, and exploited by men. And as much as I have been abused, exploited, and raped by men without knowing it, but it's coming to my consciousness now. And more I was healing the woman, more I was healing the planet, but more I was healing myself. So it's full cycle.
Yeah, that's amazing, because you described also how, first of all, how we sometimes try to heal ourselves by healing the world, but on the other hand, how healing the world can also be a way to heal ourselves, or healing ourselves contributes to healing the world, so that whatever is the hardship that we carry can be turned into a blessing. And you said that beautifully. You said that by doing the work that you did, and maybe you can speak a little bit about the work that you did in the crisis areas, and also how you felt. And because when you meet a lot of pain and the after effects of abuse, I mean, then you also, there's a lot of activists are being affected by secondary trauma. And I'm wondering how you dealt with it. How did you keep your life energy high, your spirit high? How did you not get depleted, or did you get depleted by it? So maybe you can speak a little bit for everybody that does this kind of work in the world. Like, how was your journey?
So it all started at the age of 18. I decided to become a human rights lawyer because His Holiness the Dalai Lama came to my university to speak about the violation of human rights in Tibet and the non-violence resistance of the Tibetan. And so when I listened to his speech, I say, this is exactly what I want to do, bring back the Dalai Lama to Tibet and become a human rights lawyer for the United Nations. But I was very naive at this time because, of course, there is a veto of the Chinese. But at least he gave me a direction, a focus in my studies, which is good because I went to Dharamsala, interviewed the Dalai Lama, wrote my political science thesis on the violation of human rights in Tibet, and I was very focused. So by the age of 24, I joined United Nations, after a master's degree in international relations. I was on fire. I just wanted the human rights all around the world. And my first internship started in Tajikistan. And in Tajikistan, it was in 2000. And at this time, all the Afghans were fleeing to Tajikistan to flee the Taliban regime. And when I meet them, I fell in love with them because I saw how much they were resilient, courageous, and despite the turmoil, despite the conflict. So I decided to go to Afghanistan. And by chance, I end up in Afghanistan on September 11, 2001, invited by the Taliban as a honor guest, because when I apply for a visa, they say, you were sent by Allah, your name is means the happy protector of peace. Aman means peace, Din means religion, Roche means joy. So in Afghanistan, my name as a meaning means the happy protector of peace, Amanuddin Roche. And say, how bizarre, because I'm drawn to work for peace, and say, you are at the right place. Indeed, there is so much work to do on human rights and women empowerment. So I joined United Nations and I become the head of civic education. Head of civic education, where you have to explain to the population what is human right, what is a constitution, a government, a parliament, and doing door-to-door campaign to explain to the woman, get out. It's over. The Taliban regime is over. You can take the lead. So we hire 120 civic educators, half women, half men, woman, medical doctor, engineer, teacher, and they were promoting democracy in Afghanistan. So I did it for almost 2 years. But to answer your question, when I came back home, I was on PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, anxiety. Why? Because we work so much for democratization, human rights, peace. We were on death threat every single day by Taliban. My colleague had been kidnapped in front of my office. And we actually saw our colleague on Al Jazeera TV with a Kalashnikov on the head, please release us. So much trauma, you don't have any idea. And I started to develop a stomach cancer without knowing it. My belly was like 4 months pregnant. Everybody congratulated me. I said, I'm not pregnant. I said, what's wrong with you? Well, I don't know. And I did a biopsy and I developed cancer cell metastases. So instead of going to chemotherapy, I went on Ayurveda healing. And the healers say, I'm so sorry, you just cannot go back to Afghanistan. Why? Because you are an empath. And you have been a vacuum cleaner of Afghanistan. I can see there is bombing, there is assassination, there is death threat, there is a powder of cannon. And your body has been a sponge for 2 years. And now you are completely destroyed, completely lost. And I say, but I love so much Afghanistan. I want to finish my work on women empowerment. They say, you cannot go back until you know how to protect yourself. And I say, okay, but how do I do that? He say, that's very simple. It's called Tonglen technique. In Buddhism, is when you inhale, but you exhale. You don't keep everything from yourself, because otherwise you cannot digest it anymore. And that's the reason why your body is creating a stomach cancer, because you didn't digest all this emotion you've been through for 2 years. And I say, okay, so maybe it's time for me to go back to Dharamsala and learn meditation with His Holiness, which I did. And so I did Vipassana meditation with Goenka. I became a yoga meditation teacher. And finally, when I was finally back on track, back to myself, aligned again, no more cancer, I went back to Afghanistan. And I went back to Afghanistan and same craziness. My colleague got assassinated in Augusta, so much death threat, but I became center. No more PTSD because of my spiritual practice. So my colleagues say, you change, you don't freak out anymore. I say, because I'm grounded, I have all this practice. And he said, could you teach us? And so I started to teach yoga meditation to my UN colleague. I started to teach to the Afghan. And more I was teaching to the Afghan, more I discovered that they all suffer of PTSD for 25 years of war. And I said, wait a minute, maybe there is something to explore here. And I went to visit the Minister of Health. He said, go for it. We have only 2 psychiatric asylums in Afghanistan. And when they have PTSD, they believe they are possessed by the devil, and they chain them to a tree and give them some water with pepper to get rid of the bad gene, the bad devil. Can you believe it? So that's the way of mental health at this time in Afghanistan. So you say, if you feel that yoga meditation can help the PTSD, go for it. So I created a foundation where we were teaching yoga meditation in jail to women's shelter. We created a school for the kids to learn the technique. I also teach that to a Taliban commander, actually. One of them wanted to become a peaceful leader after being the right hand of bin Laden. And he said, my daughter have been bullying in school, and I don't want she have a bad image of me. I want to preach peace and be a peaceful leader. So I went to his house, teaching to him and his kids meditation. And he said, well, it's like doing a prayer and connected with Allah 5 times a day. So you say, I'm doing meditation without being aware I'm doing meditation. I'm showing you all of this because I realize it's good to join United Nations. It's good to want to work for peace in the world. But if you don't put peace within yourself, you are a fraud. And that's my mission, honestly, because I saw so much person joining United Nations for a bad reason, for power, title, money, but they don't give a shit about peace. And I believe that it's an honor to join such an organization, and you need to also be aligned and be an apostle of peace as Gandhi, as Abdul Ghaffar Khan. So I become aware. Also, I wanted to say, in our school, we create the Torch of Light School with a friend of mine, Afghan friend of mine called Raula. And in this school, I was teaching yoga meditation. But one day, one of the Taliban father came and with a Kalashnikov looking for Amandine. And the Raula called me and said, you don't show up to school today because he wants to kill you. And I said, what's wrong? Well, he learned that you were teaching that. And he said that you are teaching Hinduism and Buddhism to his daughter because he made a shortcut, which is in his mind, yoga meditation is coming from India, which is Hinduism and Buddhism. And I make some research online, and it's not proselytism because I discover that yoga is coming from Pakistan and meditation is coming from Afghanistan. So you see, I was just bringing what belongs to Afghanistan to his country. But because of that, I needed to stop teaching yoga meditation. And I wrote a letter to Ban Ki-moon, my big boss at this time. And I say, are you aware of the sanity and the mental health of your staff on the front line? Because this is my story, evacuated 4 times from Afghanistan, having a stomach cancer, dealing with so much depression, anxiety, PTSD for years, and going on therapy. But that's only my story. What about my colleague Shipe, who have been kidnapped? What about my colleague Anita, who had been on death threat, and this one in a bombing, and this one? They are not okay. So could you tell me what you do for mental health? Because if you don't have any idea, I can give you some idea. And to my surprise, he replied to me 13 minutes after my email, come to my office right now. So I went to his office to meet his cabinet, and they told me, thank you, we are very aware of the situation. We don't know what to do. We receive resignation letter every single day, insult letter every single day. We have to address the mental health situation of the UN staff. And I say, you know what? If only I would have known before what does it mean to join United Nations and work on the front line, I would have never signed because I destroyed my brain. I mean, it took me ages to come back to myself. And if only I would have received some tools to deal of emotional regulation, I would have known better how to deal with stress and death threat and bombing, assassination, kidnapping. Okay, I'm kind of adrenaline junkie, so I feel high. But when I come back home, I collapse, and it's time for me to learn. And through my life, I learned so many techniques. I also learn at Google Institute Search Inside Yourself. I received a scholarship in San Francisco where we learn on conscious leadership, mindfulness, neuroscience, emotional intelligence. So I gained a lot of tools. So he said, okay, you do whatever you want. And I say, okay, I want to create the inner peacekeeping program. We work for peacekeeping, but we need also to learn what is inner peace. He said, go for it. So I fundraised some money, hire a team, and we designed this 2 days curriculum. We went to Jordan refugee camp in Mafraq, went to the UN staff working on the front line, welcoming all the Syrian refugees. And we started to teach them the technique. And we gave them also an app where for 6 months they have to put into practice all the tool of mindfulness, breathing exercise, journaling, gratitude. I mean, you know all of them. I'm not going to teach you. And after 6 months, result: better sleep, better eat, more calmness in the mind. A lot of them resign because they realize it's not good condition. They don't respect themselves. And afterward, I'm very proud because this program has been adopted by United Nations and is taught all around the world. So it's yeah. So that's in a nutshell the way. And I create Inner Peace Corps afterward in refugee camp in Jordan, where I wanted to develop this tool to the women refugees, healing the inner invisible wound of trauma and restore dignity and creating joy through creativity. So that's what I've been doing.
Relationships actually are a contemplative spiritual practice, if spirituality means not bypassing, but actually deepening and using the resources of mindfulness and presence, and also noticing when I'm not present, when I'm completely identified with emotions or body sensations from my past, that I go through fears and stuff that is not related to what's happening right now, but I feel it very intensively. So the way we look and the way we frame that for ourselves makes a huge difference.
We often say that the greatest gift you can give someone in a relationship is your presence. But in order to be present in the relationship, you have to be in the present. I have a saying, there's no such thing as overreacting. It's just that what someone's reacting to may not be what's in front of them. It may be what's behind them. And that's triggering. When we're completely seized by that automatic response, which has everything to do with our childhood and family of origin and wounding, that there's a space, there's a breath. And rather than acting out whatever that defensive move would be, there's a possibility of looking at it, of feeling it, and then maybe not going with it, but going with something else. And that moment of moving beyond the automaticness to something aware, and then moving from the awareness to a different choice, that's healing. That's what healing is.
Love, Trauma, and Healing is a groundbreaking, self-paced online course from Thomas Hübl and couples therapy expert Terry Rio. Learn to heal past wounds and more deeply connect with yourself, your relationships, and the world at large, using wisdom from psychotherapy and spiritual practices. For a limited time, we're offering a special $100 discount for our Point of Relation podcast community. Visit the link in our show notes or go to www.lovetraumahealing.com/podcast to learn more and start the course today.
Wow, what a journey. Thank you. This is great. First of all, I love to listen to like all the amazing things that you did and experienced. And I also hear, because I believe if we really go through something and we resolve it, which you did, we become kind of a remedy for that very thing. And when I listen to you, I can feel that you went through something, you changed it, and you changed your way. And for me, it's very clear, like I'm working with collective trauma in almost 25 years. It's very clear that there is no, here is somebody, an aid worker or a peace worker or whoever it is, somebody that does conflict resolution, and here's the conflict. It's always an interdependent field. And if we don't know how to regulate ourselves, of course, it will constantly impact us in a hurtful way. And so this movement towards much more awareness of our own mental health, the secondary trauma transmission to people who work in a lot of heavily traumatized environments, I think it must be key. This must be the standard of work, not just an add-on because somebody developed a health crisis and And that's great for you. And I think it's great that you did it. And it's also a question mark why we don't have that standard in the first place.
Yes.
The denial of our inner world in outer activism work or outer aid work is puzzling. I think it's a symptom of something. And I think we should look at why is it at all that people work under these conditions, and why do we still deny the impact on our inner world. And I think it's great that you brought something new. And I think we should also ask the question, why is it not clear that must be the standard to take care of the sustainability of the work?
Exactly. And Thomas, I wanted to add something. I have a great admiration for Dag Hammarskjöld, who was Peace Nobel laureate and is the second UN secretary from Sweden. Nobody talked about him, but he was the one saying to the UN staff, in order to be efficient on your work, you have to find stillness within yourself. And he also developed the meditation room at United Nations. Can you believe it? And now when you go to United Nations, headquarters New York, you go and it's just like a touristic site. This is where the meditation has been created, room. There is nobody inside. I say, how is it possible? Let's wake up the legacy of Dag Hammarskjöld. Like in Afghanistan, I wake up the legacy of Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Nobody knows about Abdul Ghaffar Khan. Abdul Ghaffar Khan was the frontier Gandhi. Abdul Ghaffar Khan was the non-violent soldier of Islam. Abdul Ghaffar Khan was the best friend of Gandhi. Abdul Ghaffar Khan raised an army of 500,000 non-violent soldiers of Islam. Ahimsa Satyagraha. Ahimsa, non-violence, satyagrahas are the power of truth. When you read at the biography of Gandhi, a journalist asked Gandhi, who is your model, role model? And he responded, my friend, Abdul Ghaffar Khan, because he is the one in the midst of the conflict and the turmoil of the chaos who became peaceful and goes through the war with a peaceful army of saying, no, we don't have any weapons, And I remember he received actually the award of Amnesty International in 1981. But during his funerals, I guess it was 88, during Mujahideen War, do you believe it? In Jalalabad, at the border of Pakistan, it was Abdul Ghaffar funerals, and all the soldiers stopped fighting on his funerals. Can you believe it? And went to the funerals. So I believe that Ahimsa is the answer. I believe that the way you work on the healing yourself, raising your vibration, that's your contribution to peace. So you asked me at the beginning where I am. I'm currently in Spain, Mallorca, where I realize I don't need to save all the women on this planet because I was the one needed to be saved. And now my contribution to the work, it's only the work I'm doing to myself. More I'm in alignment with my soul, more I'm raising my frequency, more I'm helping Gaia to raise a frequency as well. So we have a small healing center here, and where we organize concert, ceremony, retreat, but it's local, no international anymore, because I believe if every single person on this planet do a work on themselves, there will be peace and harmony and non-violence, definitely. Because they will form themselves. They will form the connection with Gaia. Gaia is crying right now. And how do we help? We help by healing ourselves. That's very simple for me. Makes sense.
Yeah, and first of all, that's beautiful. I was in October in Mallorca, so had I known that I maybe I could have stopped by next by. I'll come again. And I think, first of all, I want to underline what you just said, that how important it is to heal ourselves and not try to heal ourselves through trying to heal the world. And then maybe our own healing adds to the way we work in the world. But I want to say, like, through my research on collective trauma, I even think that that the fact that we see ourselves as separate particles coming into an ecosystem that is different, like, you coming to Afghanistan, but I think in the moment you are coming to Afghanistan, you are in an interdependent relationship with that ecosystem. You're not anymore just a separate particle going there, and I think that separation is already part of the trauma field we have been born in, because the world has been traumatized for thousands and thousands of years. So these fractures and fragmentations became so normal. And I think if we were to include some of the things that you just said, that you surface symptoms through your own body, which is not separate from Afghanistan, your body becomes part of is the ecosystem in that moment, and what comes up, the information that shows up in you, is inherently interwoven with the information. As you said, Gaia, like Mother Earth, we are all Mother Earth. There is no Mother Earth elsewhere. We are all it. And so this separation that makes us think in this mechanistic terms is not conducive to the healing and to the peace work in those ecosystems. We would be much more efficient, much more powerful, had we, adopted already this knowledge in the way all over the world people are working in those crisis areas. So that's why I find your life story so amazing, because you shared all of that, through your own, you came to that through your own experience. But I think there's a very, very important principle in your life journey that is very crucial to any kind of aid work in the world. Like it's like a principle that you shared with us.
Yes, exactly. I remember I met this saint, Amma, in India, and one day she said, "You are not separate from Gaia. Gaia is like the body, and you are just hair. So when you are putting out the air, it's painful for the earth. So, like a small hair here. And so we are all in interconnection, of course. And I realize, talking to you, Thomas, that indeed my life has been a rite of passage. I realized I needed to go through all this pain and suffering and raping and humiliation and sexual abuse or harassment, in order to be in compassion, in order to be in connection with all the women on this planet. And I've been through this rite of passage to find the tool and to apply the tool within myself to show to all these women there is an exit at this tunnel, and yes, there is light at the end, and yes, you're right, healing ourselves. But what does it mean to heal ourselves? To heal ourselves is to find homeostasis, to find harmony within. And how do we find harmony within? Is exactly the yin and the yang. If you have a masculine overdeveloped, as I was, as the birds of humanity of humankind in the Cherokee prophecy, where they say there is this bird of humankind, and the right wing is overdeveloped with the left wing. The right wing is the masculine, the left wing is the feminine. And if the birds of humanity just fly on one wing, is going cycle and create chaos and conflict. So you need to develop a little bit more of the feminine wings in order for the birds of humanity to thrive and to be in harmony, in balance. So to heal ourselves, for me, it's very clear. You need to have a right balance of your feminine and your masculine, which is a divine masculine and the divine feminine, in order to have a sacred union and to be an apostle of peace. So that's the inner recipe. So to look within yourself, what is too much developed on the masculine and underdeveloped on feminine, or the other way around, for my case was too much masculine, and for me being feminine equal being weak, and I needed to survive. So I have to be courageous, I have to be in determination, deadline, putting so much stress on myself, which now I'm finally, so no, I'm a woman and just need to be back to my feminine, you see. So I believe if everybody do this work, finding within themselves what is overdeveloped, underdeveloped, put within themselves the harmony, they will strive more in their life.
Exactly. And I think also that, like what you said beautifully, is that everybody has their own composition of what feels authentic and true. Like there is a kind of a certain percentage like mixed together in all of us. And I think the journey, that the self-exploration journey that you're referring to, is really to find out what's the authentic composition for me that feels in balance. It's not like copying you is the right thing or copying somebody else. It's like I need to find out with certain tools that you maybe also used throughout your journey, like how do I find my own inner balance? And that's my authentic voice of the masculine and the feminine balance. And I like also there's the left wing and the right wing of the bird, but I also like there's an upward movement and there's a downward movement of both. And I think that's also beautiful. So what I think we can look at what's our authentic movement in this. And some people, they are naturally more inclined to have more masculine traits, but they're authentic for them, and some people are more feminine. And how do we find our authentic voice? So I think that's good, and I would love to hear about that. And the other part is, if you want to share more about that question, how we find our authentic self in there and how we get synchronized with it. And the other one, I would also love to see here a little bit, because when I look into the skills of our collectives, our societies, to be active and to be out in a way and do new things or do stuff, that is pretty developed. But what I don't see, for example, and I just give one example, like, and I think that applies to crisis areas in a different way, but also to many areas around the world. After COVID, I think we went through a collective crisis that had, of course, positive outcomes and had a lot of painful outcomes. But I've not seen a lot of spaces that we created to say, okay, we went through a global disruption. Why don't we slow down for a moment and say, how do we digest? Same as you couldn't digest Afghanistan, and that created like a congestion in your system. I think collectively we are really not good at digesting, creating ritual, creating spaces, creating environments where we can digest the massive impact of all kinds of events. And that's wars. We don't do this with wars, we repeat them. We don't do this with global crisis, so we will repeat them. And so to create learning spaces, and I think that also has a lot of like feminine wisdom in, we need to come together to digest a certain impact. Otherwise, we don't learn. We don't integrate events and learn. And that's what you did when you went to your Ayurveda treatments and to your meditation retreats. You had time to integrate. So maybe you can speak to this too. How do I find my inner, like my special composition of the masculine feminine? What might be helpful tools to do that? And what can we do on the collective side? Because I really think we are lacking collective skills to integrate things. And if not, then we will just repeat certain patterns in history. And then people say history repeats. Yeah, it has a reason why history repeats, because we don't take care of history. So we are unconsciously repeating it all the time. So maybe you can speak a bit to that.
That's a good question. Thank you for asking, Thomas. I realize my life actually have been action, reflection, meditation. Action, reflection, meditation. I cannot be only on action, or only reflection, like writing book, because I wrote book, and meditation being in a cave all my life. No, it's exactly the rhythm, like the masculine action in the middle, reflection, meditation, more feminine. And it's like developing my masculine, developing my feminine, and finding the right balance in this rhythm. And it's like a dance, and you need to do a tango, but just like, okay, I'm missing a little bit. Like, for instance, right now, I've been here with my husband for the last 3 years. I'm more like on reflection, meditation, and I feel, now I'm time to go back to action, you see? Finally, after 3 years of deep healing and meditation and reflection about my life. So I like to question why, because there is not a single month when I don't receive a letter from a student saying that they are studying political science, human rights, international relations. They want to have my career, my path, and join United Nations. So at the beginning, I was just coaching them, mentoring them, saying that's the way to join United Nations. You do this, and anyway. But now I change. I tell them why you want to join United Nations. Because I want to work for peace. I want to have an impact. Okay, but clearly, you really want to work for peace? Yes. Okay, so work on yourself. And say, what do you mean? What do you mean? I studied for 6 years at university, and yes, but the best way you will contribute to peace to this world is to be at peace with yourself. Did you solve your trauma from family lineage, or did you work on a system belief that sabotage you? Do you know, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of work, you know? You did all for the external, which is good, but I'm sorry to say, are you fully aligned and an apostle of peace? Look within yourself if there is an inner conflict, you know, with your family or whatever. And so they're kind of surprised. But after they wrote me back, say, well, thank you. I started meditation. I started EFT tapping or whatever, you know. And I say, okay, like that, because I want to ensure that they don't go through what I've been through, because I joined United Nations, was sent to all the front line, because when you are working for this type of institution, after you just belongs to the conflict person. So I never go to Geneva in New York. After it's Central Africa for 1 year, and after it's Haiti or Sudan. And so I've been on the darkest place on this planet to unlock the feminine power at the bottom of the pyramid, which is great, but it's very exhausting at the end. So I believe you're right. What is missing more than ever right now is a counterbalance, because there is so many institutions working for outer peace, but where are the institutions for working for the inner and the healing? It should be as developed as all these organizations around the world. You know, United Nations is like 165 countries. We need as many organizations working on the inner. And I do believe, honestly, looking at the world right now, we are going in such crises, obviously. But at the end of this tunnel would be more locally. Like, you grow your vegetable in your garden, and that's the way peace will look like, I believe. Because honestly, if you look at Afghanistan, because I spent 14 years on and off in Afghanistan from 2000 to 2014, working on peace, democracy, human rights. Look at the situation right now. I feel stab in my back when the Taliban took back the power on August 25th, 2021. I felt so depressed, like a betrayal. And I felt like I lost 14 years of my life, honestly, because we are backward. We went backward, back to exactly where we started in 2000. So I realized, okay, you can put all your energy trying to change the world, bring peace to the world, but the only way to change the world is to change yourself, and it's full cycle. So that's why you're right. I do believe right now, to counterbalance all this EU, USAID, even USAID maybe doesn't exist anymore. USAID, EU, it's okay. And which type of, like, I'm thinking of Omega Institute, Esalen, you know, all these places, oases of healing on earth, where are they? We need more of that to counterbalance this masculine, more feminine. And yeah, I feel it will be better, I believe so.
Yeah, and it shows also, you're speaking to that, it shows also that the unconscious dimension of our past pain is exactly what we are not looking at. Because we could also ask, why does a university program that prepares people for international relations or international peace building not look at these things? We know too much about trauma, about collective trauma. This would be like the thing that should be parallel to such studies to prepare yourself inside, to give you skills to be able to work in those places, and not just intellectual skills, like holistic skills. And so the question is always, okay, it doesn't exist and it needs voices like yourself that are promoting that. But I think the other question to ask also is, if something is not there, there's a reason why it's not there. And I think we always need to ask the question, why is it not there to start with? If that's so good, I mean, it helped you and it helps many other people. And you know this, I know this. I have seen thousands of people that flourish much more if their inner skills and healing methodologies, and we become more wholesome. So we all know this, and there's a lot of science data around it. So we know that. But still, it seems like we argue with some invisible force that's not there. Otherwise, we would have that education in many university programs that would be already integrated, and in the UN it would be integrated, because we know that's a way to make people have much more efficient impact, be much more sustainable, be much more happy, be much more able to deal with the trauma impact. I mean, there are so many good reasons. So the question is, I think, also to ask, like, why is it not there? Maybe you can just slowly wind down. And if you have anything else beside that question that you think we didn't talk about and you want to share, so please.
Yeah, when you read Montessori, when you read Rudolf Steiner, and Waldorf, you see back to the last centuries, they were also already speaking about that. Why we don't develop peace education in school, what we don't develop the inner skill. And I believe the only reason is because they can control us less if everybody is on power with their inner skill, and they know who they are, and they know their mission, and they know where they go, and you are out of matrix, kind of. And of course the government doesn't want that. They don't want to set you free.
Yeah, and I think we collectively also share like an unconscious dimension of the pain we never wanted to look at. I mean, of the wars. Like look at the Second World War, look at the Holocaust, look at racism and slavery in the US, or colonialism. I mean, there are so many big topics around the world, I think, that we do not consciously address. And I think the feminine power and also the skills of healing are so important. If they balance activity and outgoing and innovation and like tech development, we need to develop that capacity that you are speaking to the whole time throughout this conversation. Because I think it's so easy to keep avoiding what we don't want to look at, and then recreate similar situations. Say, oh wow, now the world's really in a crisis. Yeah, of course it will be, because I often compare this to, it's like you're on your surfboard and you're pedaling in the ocean, and then you say, this is my personal freedom, I can go left or right, and then you don't notice at the beginning that a big wave takes you, and you're pedaling still, but you're part of a bigger movement that is totally unconscious. And then we say, oh, how come that there's another war? Or how come that in different countries we have such a regression again? And I say, yeah, of course, we are not taking care of the things that we need to take care of. So I think that's a great conversation also to keep going. And is there anything else, any wisdom you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, well, you say the world is on fire, and I always like this story of, indeed, the world is on fire, and what do we do to extinguish this fire? And I remember this nice story, it's in the jungle, there is a fire, like in the planet right now, like in Los Angeles recently. And so all the animals are fleeing this fire, and they look at the fire and they see the hummingbird going to the lake, take a drop of water, flying above the fire, dropping, going back to the lake, take a drop of water. And so the other animals, like the buffalo, like the big animals, or the elephant, the lion, are looking at the hummingbird and say, well, you think you're going to extinguish the fire like that? And he reply, at least I do my part, you see? So if all of you will do your part, yes, we will all together extinguish the fire.
Wow, that's a beautiful note to end on. Yeah, that's lovely for all of us to take in. And so thank you very much. I deeply enjoyed this conversation. It was very alive, and it was so great to get to know you through this conversation deeper. So thank you very much. I think that's a great conversation for people to take into their lives.
What you bring to the world as well, because I've been following you, and you are, for me, an apostle of peace because of all the work on trauma you did on yourself and for the collective. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Visit collectivetraumasummit.com to listen to more talks like this one and to learn more. Thanks for listening to Point of Relation with Thomas Hübl. Stay connected and get updates about new episodes by visiting our website, pointofrelationpodcast.com, and by subscribing to the Thomas Hübl YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share about us with your community on social media. Thank you. We appreciate your support.